Welcome, everybody, to this PayTrace webinar. My name is Sam Johnson. I'm the Partner Success Manager here at PayTrace, and I am just so excited to announce our guest today. You may recognize him from some previous calls with us, but today we have Adam Kostopoulos from NewGen Business Solutions. He's the solutions consultant, which is a fancy way of saying he's the brains of the operation. Welcome, Adam.
No pressure. Yeah, no, thanks for having us back. Always love to chat. Always love talking PayTrace and NetSuite. So yeah, looking forward to
Yeah.
showing you a couple new things and chatting about, reducing DSO and all these types of things. So welcome to everybody and appreciate you guys spending the time as always.
I love it. I'm looking over the live attendee list, and I see a lot of familiar names. So welcome back, everybody. A couple names that I'm not familiar with. So if you are new, let's cover a little bit of housekeeping on what to expect. Adam and I are not going to talk your ears off. This is going to be a 30-minute session about the partnership between NewGen and PayTrace and how that can impact, if you're a business, how that can impact your bottom line, how you're processing your payments, or if you're a sales partner, right? How can you utilize this to get more business and set up your customers with some successful solutions? You will notice you are muted. If that doesn't really mean that we don't want to chat with you, though. So if you do have questions, comments, or emotional outbursts, I do expect a lot of emotional outbursts today. Adam's going to be saying a lot of controversial stuff, like always.
My style.
You can Shane's raising his hand. I'm gonna lower your hand, Shane. There's a Q and
Well,
A.
speaking of emotional outbursts, Shane's on here with NewGen 2, and he's going to be answering the question. So maybe that's what he's saying is he's here to
He's here to help.
console.
He's here to listen in.
Yes.
Send in those questions into the Q&A section. You should see a little Q&A box on your panel. We'll be reviewing that, and we'll carve out probably about 3 to 5 minutes at the end of today's call to go ahead and tackle as much as we can live. If we can't get to that live, I'll have some contact information for you all on how you can follow up with our teams. So, with that said, all right, this is not our first rodeo, Adam. We've done a handful of these webinars before, and I feel like we've covered the new gen product in pretty ad nauseum. So today I want to direct the conversation around maybe some of the challenges that we're seeing today, how you guys have addressed those. But before we get into that, maybe could you just provide a high level outline on who NewGen is and maybe how we got to where we are today?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I'll mention here, I don't know if you need to do something on your side, but Shane's IMing me here on Teams. If he needs to be elevated at all, he said he could help with the questions. I'd imagine we'll have enough time at the end anyway to maybe address them directly, but he's able to do that. I don't know if that's something you need to do on your side,
All right.
um, but yeah, a little bit of an intro then. Well, again, I appreciate you having me. So NewGen, we're a NetSuite partner. We've been in the ERP space for, as an organization, 25 some years. The last almost 20 of them, almost kind of throughout all of NetSuite's existence, which started in 99, been primarily focused on NetSuite, selling it, implementing it, consulting on it, and developing on it. And that's kind of how we came across PayTrace way back in the day. It's been about 4 or 5 years at this point that
Yeah.
we've grown together. Been a lot of fun. But we had a customer come to us and say, I love PayTrace. Nobody's connected NetSuite to PayTrace. I have to have NetSuite connected to PayTrace. So that was sort of our foot in the door. Of course, got connected to great folks on your side and have grown the integration ever since. And, at this point, 4 or 5 years later, I think we're quickly approaching 200 or so shared NetSuite accounts.
Wow.
That's companies that we're in,
That's
some
massive.
processing a bit, some processing many, many tens, hundreds of millions, perhaps. I don't quite know sometimes. Happens without me doing anything, I suppose. So it's been a fun ride, and kind of the way we look at ourselves over at NewGen is, regardless of who we're talking with, a merchant or a reseller or your team, we like to try to make sure that we're holding the end of the kind of agreement and being the NetSuite experts in the room, the accounting people, the debits, the credits, the business process flow.
Yep.
Me myself, I've lived in NetSuite, I suppose, just about every working day and plenty of weekends too, for like a decade. So like it a lot, really used to it, and we try to play that role when when we're working on integrated payments, I suppose. So
Yeah. And that's what I love about working with you guys as partners is not only are you a technology company, but you truly do understand the product. You have the accounting background, you have the AR, experience. So you're not just a group of developers. You're really living kind of the existence that a lot of the customers are dealing with today.
100%. And I mean, that's kind of downstream of us selling NetSuite, which is,
Mhm.
of course, an ERP, it's complex stuff. You're basically asking a business, hey, can I, rip out the heart of your business, while you're living and replace it without interrupting business flow or anything like that.
Mhm.
So ERP implementation, very challenging. And to have those conversations, it's really having that accounting conversation with, oftentimes it's honestly an owner but as in the SMB space that NetSuite's in, but controllers, CFOs, guys that care about invoices, payments, deposits, debits, credits, they care about all of that kind of before they care about payments to them.
Yep.
Well, that should just happen, and that's really again the type of thing we've tried to do over the years with the connector here, and we feel like we've been pretty successful in terms of um, evolving over time, adding the features again that we've talked about in other calls. I won't go over it in ad nauseum, but today we did at least want to talk about one additional one, kind of what we think might be the coup de grace on everything coming together the last 4 or 5 years with Autopay. But yeah, that's sort of the strategy we've taken. It's been fun to grow.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that. So I think that's a really good transition, right? We're not going to go into this crazy big hour-long demo. Well, Adam is chomping at the bit to do that. We've actually done that a couple times already. I'd love to direct our audience over to our YouTube channel. If you're not already on there and subscribed, we've got a few other new gen videos so you can see more of a kind of a comprehensive demo. But over the last, like you said, last year, however, I mean, you've been developing this constantly. You've added a couple new features, some enhancements to the solution. We've got an auto pay feature, and we also have, kind of a card updater tool. Tell me how did these come about, and what I guess what are the value that it adds to NetSuite?
Yeah. So, I mean, for the folks that are familiar with maybe our integration or ERP or NetSuite or perhaps some other solutions out there that tie to other systems, Paytrace to other systems, or Paytrace itself has a lot of the stuff, in the virtual terminal. But, we've connected gateway calls to charge a card or charge ACH through the gateway, of course, on all the NetSuite screens, your payments, your deposits, your refunds, your voids, all the normal transaction processing things. We've added all the payment links, a bunch of different flavors, including we call it the statement pay now. It's probably the most popular feature. It kind of ends up being like a customer portal, self-service portal for the folks. We've done convenience fee. We've done card present with the Augusta readers. I'm probably missing another, but we've done all these things. But one thing we always had over the years, and it's definitely not everybody that needs it, but for the people that are higher volume, where's like the set and forget it button of sorts, the auto pay.
Yep.
And it was a couple of accounts, we'd hit the last. I mean, we've had this feature for 6, 9 or so months now in earnest. We just haven't showed it really to maybe an audience like this. But one in particular, they're a SaaS software company, so they've got a monthly subscription, and NetSuite you can have automatically in all sorts of ways create a bunch of invoices on schedules and memorize them and that type of thing. But they wanted to basically toss them somewhere and put a card or put a bank account against it. And just as they hit the system, have them auto pay against the gateway. So that's kind of where this was born. And really our North Star for design, and I like to tell this people because I think everybody understands it, is what we wanted to do with our auto pay feature was essentially give the NetSuite company basically like a turnkey version of, I suppose, the portal you have for your like Comcast bill, Cox bill, your water bill, your HOA bill, like that monthly. I don't care what it costs, kind of to some degree, but I want to put my bank account or I want to put my credit card against it and you just take care of it. So interestingly enough, and this might be surprising to like people that aren't super big NetSuite people in the or on the call, you actually don't really have something like that in NetSuite. There's a lot, but you don't really have something like that. So we built, at least for us and for the NetSuite people we work with, a very NetSuite-like way to sort of give you this function. So what will, again, it's not too much to look at. It's simple in its design, I suppose, but very powerful. And the fact that really what it's meant to be is just that, a portal where I can go in and I can set a card to autopay against a subset of invoices. And I give, again, as the merchant, my customer base the ability to opt into paying invoices as I create them on the back end, which in NetSuite you could do in a million ways. So that's kind of always the description we give, that
Yeah.
Comcast bill or whatever it is.
Well, it's very true because when I think of personally as a consumer, right, I have all those same, I literally just fertilized. I had some landscapers come fertilize my grass and they send me a paper bill, but rather than writing out a check, right, they also send me the email and I just say, here's my card, just run it. You're going to be out in a few months anyway. You
Yep.
don't have to deal with this, right? Set it and forget it. Um, it shouldn't be just a consumer experience. That's one of the challenges that a lot of CFOs are coming into contact with right now is we want to make sure that the buying experience for our buyers is as simple, non-disruptive as possible. So how can you make that as automated and as clean as possible? And by giving them this consumer-like payment experience, right? They're going to be happier. They're going to continue to use these services much more when they don't have to think about those payables constantly. It's funny when you first told me about this, I'm like, oh, it's just recurring payments. We do that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That
But
is kind of close. Yeah, yeah, that's a good
it
point.
it was, but then when you actually, and I'm excited to see your demo when you showed me this, and I'm like, oh man, you're actually just uploading the invoice and it's taking the payment information that's on file and paying that off as it comes through, right? That's a unique solution. You're solving a problem that I think a lot of people didn't know that they had. And it really is phenomenal. So I'd love to take a look at it if you got the
Yeah, let's
environment ready
let's
to
take a
go.
look. And I actually think that might be an interesting kind of point to hit before we get too deep. And again, for the folks that like live in ERP, they might certainly get what I'm getting at here. But the others that have the fortune are fortunate enough to not have to live in ERP, maybe,
Hmm.
but necessary evil. A difference between maybe say the recurring payment and what we have is your recurring payment. It's like, I don't know, $100 every month for 12 instances or in perpetuity or something like
Right.
that. Well, that's fine, if the amount doesn't change or something like that. And, in the world of ERP, that comes in as just sort of like a payment with no parent. In the NetSuite world, you want it to pay for an open invoice or bill or something like that. Well, the way something like this works is it's in the opposite direction is something's happening in that business inside NetSuite that's creating invoices, ad hoc, again, programmatically, NetSuite itself, and there's other third-party add-ons too for like recurring billing where I'm looking at like usage units and modules they have as part of a licensing package, subscription type stuff.
Yep.
And based on the design of someone's prescription, shooting out invoices, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever the cadence is. And again, that gives me an open invoice in my ERP, but in NetSuite, there's no real super easy way to just put that on an auto pay schedule with like an on-file payment instrument. So that's where this comes in. And that's, again, for the biggest customer you have using this is what I'm thinking about when I said the one that kind of drove the creation of this. That's kind of their design, something fancy, and NetSuite is generating the invoices, and then we're catching them
Mhm.
and putting them against a card to the gateway or ACH.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yep, yep. So again, I'll be rather brief with this. And for the folks that we've done demos with, they know that on the demos, we usually in an hour can learn a little bit about a merchant, how they're working in NetSuite, assuming they're live. We'll talk to people half the time they're not live, and it sort of becomes how do I show you what we got without this becoming a NetSuite training? But at least we like talking about NetSuite. But we're able to kind of learn what somebody might want and pick and pull from our different features that we think they might like that they'll find valuable and kind of do the whole demo usually in an hour or so call. So discovery and demo in the same sort of call, if you want to put it that way. But really quick here, the whole idea with what we call the auto pay plan is
Mhm.
this belongs to the customer. So the way this is designed, and This may or may not make for the best demo to some degree, but I could tell you if you're a NetSuite person that needs an auto pay function, this makes complete sense to you.
Hmm.
And maybe that's me trying to grasp for straws or copping out or something like that. But you have to trust me if you're not a NetSuite person. But an auto pay plan, really what it is the marriage between a customer and in the NetSuite world, what we call a save search. A save search is essentially a dynamic way to basically pull a subset of data. And it's dynamic. Why that's important is because then I have really infinite flexibility in terms of this save search sort of net or lasso I'm casting around a bunch of open invoices and I'm pulling them to the surface. And then when this plan runs, it pays for all of those invoices. So why that's important and why we did it this way, so we could build it one time as a solution. It could apply in a lot of situations. We talked to a lot of people. They said, what about autopay? What about autopay? It's like, okay, well, what do you want to auto pay? Every invoice. Do you want it to be on the 1st, the 15th, every Tuesday? Do you want to check every day? Is it when a particular product is on the invoice? Is it, maybe they want to be cognizant of credit card fees. So they don't want to do it if the invoice is less than 5K. Otherwise, they're going to try to push them to do ACH or something. But we also do convenience fee with this for what it's worth, which helps with that conversation. But it's that save search, which again is the backbone, the kind of best friend of how you organize data in NetSuite specifically, so very specific to the system. But that gives us a really infinite degree of flexibility. So to kind of put it in the most generic way, in the most precise way, a couple situations we've seen. We've seen for some people, they just want to auto pay everything, basically everything that's open. And they may want this is like the most hardline way to do it, I suppose, is if somebody's on an auto pay plan, check every single day for every single open invoice. And if you find one, charge the card, make the payment. And honestly, that's a lot of times what people want. And this covers it. But for anyone that, has gotten to spend a lot of time doing software, it's always, okay, well, what's the 2% edge case? And always kind of trying, for better, for worse, trying to address that. But when you can address that, people are very happy, so it's worth it. But this search lets us, say if you wanted to only auto pay invoices that are, again, less than $5,000 where I sold a particular product, like it's, again, my licensed software or it's a membership fee or something like that. We can use a safe search to capture that. So that's kind of the overall idea. And then you got a couple other things here, in terms of just monitoring. Of course, these are always hitting the gateway. I've got my details there. It's creating payments in NetSuite on the normal GL, just like we will with any of our other functions. But then when we get into kind of recovery, when we did this, it worked well. Second question with our initial kind of test customer, we usually build something with somebody in the field. That way we try to build it right, make sure it's actually usable. We're lucky. We have a lot of great customers that are always giving us ideas. That's kind of how we built this over the years. But they said, okay, this is great, but what if, the card is bad? It's expired or, something like that, or any reason it fails. How do we sort of do that self-recovery? So what we've done here is if it fails, we just increment a counter simply. And then for NetSuite people or ER people, a lot of systems, I suppose, would do this. You have the ability to build any types of like alerts and workflows. When this happens, do this. When this happens, send an email. So this allows us to be very sort of flexible and tailor this process for somebody. The simple solution here, or a simple thing that we'll do is, okay, well, if the auto pay plan fails 5 times, fraud or insufficient funds, shoot out an email to the customer. They're in our system. We can email them. And then what we send them is we send them our AutoPay customer plan link. So now this is where you're looking kind of more like the My Account Center of Comcast or your water bill or something like that. This is your self-service screen,
Yep.
right? So, I'm the customer of Ultimate Technology. I might have multiple plans. I think a lot of people really just have one, maybe AutoPay everything. Again, like I said earlier, I can come through here. For people that have seen other demos we have, this is our add payment details screen. It's kind of like a credit card auth or ACH authorization form. Doesn't charge the card, but we check to make sure it's good against the gateway and then save it down. But I add my new payment instrument here, and then I can come in here. And we tried to, again, we had this vision of, okay, let's get it close to your water bill programs and that type of thing. But super simple. Payment method, select the new card or ACH bank details once they've been added. And that's going to, this is once was credit card, now this flips to, I have ACHs and credit cards on file with this customer. So I have a bunch to pick from. But that's the idea. Rather simple, just giving the customer access to make these swaps. Otherwise, set it and forget it. And what's great again about being on something like NetSuite is there aren't a lot of upper limits with NetSuite.
Hmm.
I mean, we hope to in the future. Right now, we've got customers that are maybe doing tens of thousands a month, maybe for this often like a monthly type of charge for something. But because it's on NetSuite, you certainly have the ability to scale much higher than that, depending on what the need is. But
There's a couple things I want to pick out on that. So the self-service screen that you just showed me, I think is a huge win for not only just for Autopay, but for our merchants and our customers in general. One of the trends that I'm constantly seeing as I'm having these conversations with these B2B accounts is they don't want to touch payment data ever. They don't want to touch it. They don't want to ever see a full number for a bank account, for a credit card. This is a really great way to keep that in the hands of their customer so that their PCI scope, their notches scope, all of that is zero, right? The data's hosted on the gateway. It's within their NetSuite account, but their customers can manage it themselves. So I think that's phenomenal, right? They don't have to touch any of that. That's becoming very popular. Um, I do want to kind of set maybe an example, Adam, just to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. So to the autopay feature, let's say I'm a NetSuite user, Sam's Golf World. I sell wholesale golf clubs, and I've got 1,000 invoices out there outstanding, tons of AR, but I don't have money in the bank because I need people to pay me. If I enable PayGen, right, your product, your payment product, and I say auto pay these outstanding invoices that are already in NetSuite, and I have that payment information, is it going to actually grab those outstanding ones?
100%. Yeah, your customer might end up with a pretty big charge. So hopefully they're good with that. But
That's what I
it's
thought.
actually funny you bring that up because when we'll bring PayGen and payments integrations, I suppose, into NetSuite in general, we actually always do work through that. And I mean, a big reason why people take credit cards, of course, is to reduce DSO.
Right.
There's probably no better way to do it. But they always, because of again, now they're paying phone tag, running the cards manually in a virtual terminal, or they don't process at all. It's all paper check or something.
Hmm.
But oftentimes, yeah, whether they're using something like this or maybe more like our Pay Now links or something like that, or really again any way to do it. But they are always kind of right at the beginning. Now that they've got automation, payment automation, they're like working through this big glut of stuff that's been sitting on the AR
Yeah.
register for a long time to get the cash in the door for sure.
Yeah. Nobody likes sending outstanding payable or receivables to collections, right? Let's
Right, right,
grab what we
right. Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Well, and I like that you brought up the term DSO, right? Day sales outstanding, because this is a huge headache right now for businesses is when they have these receivables, right? We should be celebrating, we have sales, but when they're sitting on your ERP for 60, 90 days on average, that sucks. You don't have money, right? We have the idea of money, which nobody, woohoo. With this, you're essentially, right, as long as everything's working as expected, they have updated payment information. This is essentially eliminating DSO. If in the case that we're processing every single day,
Yeah.
DSO is net one, realistically, right?
If we're blessed enough to have that business model, yes. And plenty of people can have that maybe, but they just kind of don't have this automated tool to go pull the money. Again, the customer's willing to do it, just like you and I are willing to, if the pool guy or the landscapers or something can just charge automatically instead of me having to send the Zelle every time they text me when they're done. It's like I would absolutely say, sign up for this if they had it for me. But as a result, I still send it pretty quick. So maybe it's just a couple days, but he could have it immediately. If he went in this direction, his pool cleaning business or landscaping business picked up NetSuite and PayGen and Paytrace and all of that, but
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, you use the term flexible, right? And this is, it's taking very rigid term policies that businesses may have implemented because they didn't have the option of doing
right?
anything different. Now with this, we can offer this to our buyers, to the end customers, and give them the flexibility to make the payables in the way that makes the most sense for them, as long as it's not 90 days from now.
Right, right. Well, and that kind of also maybe is like a wider point about how we like to try to go to market with, again, you guys, with other pay trace resellers, with banks, with merchants. I mean, whoever we're talking to, is again, all we do at NewGen is NetSuite, whether it's with this stuff or just normal NetSuite, other add-ons, we have other suite apps, all that kind of stuff. I mean, we just love talking about NetSuite solutions. And the way that we built all of this and a lot of the things we try to build as like NetSuite add-ons is we try to be kind of like loosely tie stuff together. So, when it comes to the creative solutioning based on my business, needs, the market I'm in, my profile of a customer, I can, Autopay is something that's absolutely doable in my industry. My competitors are doing it, that type of thing, versus, payment links versus, only ACH, only credit card, or giving people the option. People in my industry are cool with convenience fees. Some industries are, some industries aren't. We do that and automate that and account for that. So we've kind of got, or the way we tried to do this, again, because we're NetSuite people, we know there's always the edge case, there's always the unique story. We like talking to folks that want to automate payments, and we
Yep.
like to hear their opinion on, which of those features are useful, what are their challenges, and what's nice about, again, the way we built this, we can custom tailor something without having to do a lot of custom coding. And in fact, not really any. We made this flexible from the get-go in our design so we could go live with it quickly, but we could still flex it in all the ways we need to, I suppose, to sort of hit the right pain points, I guess, is the best way to put it for business A, business B, business C. And that's just how the NetSuite space is in general. It's a mature system, it's a robust system. And we knew we had to follow suit with this if we wanted to have the most success. And this is no exception to that, Autopay.
Yeah, I agree. It very much is flexible with the business and can scale and grow as needed, um, which is excellent in a payment solution. I know we're actually coming up on time here, so I'm gonna.
We always use it. I ramble.
I know we no, it's good. It's good. You have a lot of valuable nuggets to share with us. If you have questions, send them in now. Adam, I'm going to ask you, right? This is a lot of cool information for anybody that might be in the NetSuite space, any of our sales partners or even clients. Um, Walk me through what's kind of the process to get going. You said you can do kind of a solutions call in about an hour. What does that process look like for NewGen?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly can reach out to Paytrace directly. You can reach out to us. Our website's newgennow.com. If you Google NewGen Paytrace, you'll probably find us without too much trouble. But reach out to our sales team, sales email, call us up. Pretty hard to not find us maybe. But yeah, we always like to chat, before maybe a call with a customer or merchant, depends on kind of the relationship in all of this. But happy to have calls before we get on the call with maybe, say it's a Paytrace reseller or a bank, but prep a little bit beforehand. We always look at it in these types of ways too. It's certainly your relationship. It's your deal. It's your opportunity. We're happy to follow suit and kind of tag along as you need us. But once we're on the call with somebody, we can ask the sort of probing questions to show them things that we think will be valuable or that they'll like, really in the same call. And we were able to do it all in about an hour. And again, we're always happy to sort of be put to task with this, but from a sort of solutions, we know our competitors in the NetSuite space. We really do believe that, kind of tit for tat, cool features, time savers in a NetSuite environment. We're really the best out there when it comes to integrated payments in NetSuite.
Agreed. Agreed. I don't play favorites with partners very much, but I always feel very confident whenever there's a NetSuite opportunity. Like you guys are gonna take care of them 100%. Um, Perfect. Well, Adam, I'm going to ask you to drop the share screen, and I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. If you would like some more information on this NewGen integration between Paytrace and NewGen for NetSuite, let us know. I'll make sure that our teams get this data so that we can follow up with you guys. If you have opportunities, if this looks like a good fit for you, we'd love to have more of a dialogue around that. If you do want to get a hold of us directly, feel free to contact sales@paytrace.com. Again, I will put that in the description of this video. And like Adam said, newgennow.com is going to be the NewGen site. You guys have tons of resources and information for anybody that's looking for a NetSuite solution. So we are at time. Appreciate everybody that's here live. We will have this recording up on our YouTube channel. Again, just type in PayTrace on youtube.com. You'll find tons of content with Adam, myself, and all sorts of good B2B tidbits in the payment space. So I'm going to end this poll. Adam, I want to thank you again. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and all these enhancements. And I'm sure we'll have you on here again, probably in the very near future.
Perfect. We'll look forward to it. And yeah, thanks as always for having us, and thanks everybody for tuning in and appreciate the partnership.
All right. Take care. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right. Thank you, everybody.